Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Jump right into it. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for checking in once again. We got a show planned for you tonight. In hour number 2, it is our National Park Series continues in honor of America turning 250 years old this year. And we're doing the national parks, the tour of the national parks. Today, we're going to talk about the Badlands of South Dakota. We're going to talk to the executive director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. The Badlands are in South Dakota, so we're really looking forward to that. A little bit later on in this first hour, we're going to... Has anybody been following the World Cup controversy in Foxborough, Massachusetts? They got about 2 or 3 weeks to figure out who's going to pay $7.8 million because FIFA doesn't want to pay it, the Patriots don't want to pay it, and the World Cup is supposed to be playing at the Foxborough Gillette Stadium, and Foxborough is saying, we're not giving you the keys until somebody pays us the security deposit. And so they're not opening the doors. And so there's a bit of a standstill. We're going to talk to a professor from Holy Cross who has been following this story from the very beginning. We're also going to ask him about how much of an economic impact is the World Cup this summer going to be. He has some interesting thoughts on all of that. So that's going to be a little bit later on in this first hour. And then, of course, yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, there was an interesting story. Congress can't agree on what day of the week it is, but there is bipartisan legislation working its way through the House and the Senate. Did I mention it was bipartisan? It is aiming to restrict people who build homes to rent them. Senators have inserted a new provision into the latest housing legislation that would require investors to sell the homes they build within 7 years of completing them. So the United States government would pass a law that's saying you own a home and you built it, you want to rent it, and after 7 years, you got to sell it. A number of people are against it, including the National Association of Home Builders and the National Multifamily Housing Council. Some are for it. The National Association of Realtors, they're trying to lower the pricing of homes, but the people saying, people who this is going to affect are saying this is going to do the exact opposite. To talk about it is president of the National Multifamily Housing Council, Sharon Wilson Géno. Shannon, welcome to America at Night.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You got us. Give us a sense of what this legislation would actually do.
Sure. And again, to your point, it was really inserted in the middle of the dead of night. I mean, this is a backroom deal. We've been working with the Senate and the House on a bipartisan bill to do what people of all political stripes want, which is help America build more housing and lower housing costs. And this was dropped in at the last minute, and effectively it will make it almost impossible to raise the resources necessary to build single-family homes for renters. And this is a really growing segment of the rental housing market. We're currently building somewhere in the 40, 50, 60,000 units of rental housing, purpose-built rental housing for families that maybe are saving for a home but can't afford it yet, for families that are more mobile, military families, and people with different kinds of jobs that can now, in a more remote society, move to different places, for seniors who are ready to give up their ownership structure because they'd like a more consistent payment and not be subject to increases in insurance and taxes and don't want to deal with the maintenance. So this is a really important part of the rental housing market. And effectively, we wouldn't be able to build more housing, again, because no one would invest in it. And really, more disturbingly, is it would effectively require that after 7 years, renters who weren't ready to buy those homes move. So you're displacing, effectively evicting people from their homes that they have tried to create stability in, but just in a rental structure.
So it's interesting because the legislation, if you have an investor who builds a home with the purpose of renting it, after 7 years, they would be forced to sell that home. That's weird in that I don't know if the federal government ever passed a law forcing someone to sell something when they didn't want to sell it.
We're not even sure if it's constitutional, frankly. We have laws in this country against the government taking property without just compensation. And by putting the 7-year timetable on it, you're grossly devaluing that property and that investment. And frankly, what's going to end up happening, which is the worst of all solutions, is people won't build them. And we need more housing in this country. It is well documented that we have a housing shortage, and the only way to make housing more affordable is to build more of it. And this would actually build less. So you have a bill that is purported to help housing supply and help moving housing forward, but the first thing it does is does harm to our existing housing structure. And we're really hopeful that the Senate changes its mind here pretty fast and corrects this problem.
Yeah, let's talk about this in terms of the housing costs, because everyone agrees housing is too expensive. Everyone agrees we need more housing. But the investors who have sort of come into this space over the last, 15, 20 years, 10 years or so, they've really sort of ratcheted up renting. But clearly, there's got to be a market for people who want to rent, or they wouldn't rent the homes.
Absolutely, and we're in a different environment now. What's worked in housing policy in the 20th century is not really going to work in the 21st century, which is ironic because this is called the 21st Century Housing Bill. People are in a more mobile society. People are interested in having a variety of choices that meet their needs and having the freedom to choose at different times in their lives. And then I think, and you mentioned this kind of in passing, there's this idea that somehow investors in housing are the problem. Well, who are investors in the housing? Most multifamily housing in this country the investors are pension funds. So the institutional investors we're talking about are retired teachers, retired firefighters. They're union carpenters like my Uncle Danny, who his pension fund was invested in apartment buildings. He worked on those apartment buildings, and he and my aunt lived in those apartments. So they get a steady Eddie investment, and that helps their retirement savings. So it's not that institutional investments are necessarily nameless, faceless individuals. They're helping support the retirement system in this community as well.
Let me play devil's advocate here. The other side will say the goal is to lower the cost of housing to get more people to buy homes. And if more homes are built and more homes are on the market in 7 years, wouldn't that lower the housing prices, therefore allowing more people to buy homes?
If these homes were being built for the purpose of for sale, multifamily apartments and built-to-rent communities are financed very differently from single-family homes. Single-family homes are built on one lot at a time. They're built for the purpose of sale. Built-to-rent communities are really horizontal apartments. They're financed like apartments. The utilities and the structures are built like apartments. The community amenities are built like apartments. They're managed like apartments. So they're not intended to be for sale. Like, these homes will not be built is the bottom line. The only way you lower costs for people is if you build more homes, period. So we need to have a lot of choices for people, both for sale as well as for rent, so people can make different choices at different times. We just need more of it.
It seems like they are, let me ask you this question, because the homeowner itself, let me ask you this question. What would you recommend if you were Grand Poobah and you were in the Senate and you could write any bill you want? Well, what would you like to see to lower housing costs to get more people buying homes?
It's really creating more incentives for people to build, both rental and for sale. We're not against for sale home ownership. It's a critical part of the ecosystem. But people should have the freedom to choose here in this country. It has a lot to do with their economic security moving forward. So number one is lowering federal barriers and helping to incentivize states and localities to lower the permitting times, the zoning requirements, the other regulatory barriers that they have to go through that cost them time and money to build, and those things get passed on, be it to homeowner or to renter. So lower the barriers to housing, and then let's help create some incentives, especially for those that need the housing most, which are those at the low to moderate income level. We have some programs that do that, but not enough.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Sharon Wilson Géno, president of the National Multifamily Housing Council. Across the board, liberal, conservative, city, county, rural, state, federal, they all say low-income housing, first-time home buyer housing, the market just isn't there, and the investors and the builders do not have an economic incentive to build those homes.
Absolutely. And we have some programs that will help. We have the low-income housing tax credit, which just got doubled this past July, which is a huge help in bolstering rental housing for low to moderate income families. But if you lower the barriers of entry, if you lower the cost of construction by lowering the regulatory requirements, right now it takes 2, 3, sometimes more years to build either single family for sale or rental housing. The cost of carrying all of those investments you need to make in order to meet those requirements that states and localities are putting up gets passed on to the consumer. So governments have a role here to play at all levels of government where they can lower the costs themselves, not by putting even more money in, but by lowering those regulatory barriers. Everybody
also says that government, even the most anti-government, keep your hands off my economy, Americans are saying government's going to have to step in and help with the low-income first-time home buyers market because the market forces are just not there. Builders make more money when they build more expensive homes for older and much more affluent Americans. So you've got to incentivize it some way to get those homes built for those first-time home buyers.
Yeah, I think there's a couple solutions here. One is we're suffering from a bit of a COVID hangover, frankly. Cost of construction went up during COVID, and they haven't come down. I mean, we used to see kind of an ebb and flow in that space. We haven't since that time. You know, we have the looming question around tariffs, and that could be a factor as well. So the cost of building the way we've built in this country is not going to go down substantially. But what can we do to reduce those costs? One thing that our organization is really interested in is new and innovative construction models where we can build homes better, stronger, faster, and do them more inexpensively to make that point of entry much lower for the builder, which makes that point of entry much lower for the consumer.
Yeah, Sharon Wilson Géno, president of the National Multifamily Housing Council. As I started off this segment, they can't agree on anything in Washington, but this is talking about bipartisan legislation. Both parties are in favor of it. How worried are you that this actually might pass?
Well, you know, we have still a long way to go, and we've obviously been working this very hard with people on both sides of the aisle on the Hill. We've got a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. I got to believe that there was when this was put in the bill, there wasn't a full understanding of the ramifications. I feel like we've done a lot of education. I feel like if the Senate is not able to fix this problem in the next couple of days, that we're spending a lot of time with the House of Representatives, it's too important to let go. So I really believe that be it either in the House or with the Senate being involved, or be it in the Senate or the House being involved, that we will see a solution because it's critical to building the housing America needs.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very important story, regardless of what you think about it, and not getting a lot of attention. Sharon Wilson Géno, president of the National Multifamily Housing Council. Thanks for joining us on a quick turnaround. We appreciate it, and we will keep your number handy if and when we need you. Thanks for checking in.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. Sharon Wilson Géno, president of the National Multifamily Housing Council. Affordable housing, it is probably the biggest question and the biggest issue facing Americans, one of them anyway. And interesting that bipartisan legislation would force large investors to sell their investments 7 years after they build it. Imagine if they forced stockholders to sell their Facebook stock 7 years after they purchased it. Thought that was kind of interesting. It is America at Night. We are just getting started. Stay right there. Back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, what are you doing next Monday night? Because next Monday night, if you're in Atlanta, the Hawks are playing the Orlando Magic. And it was supposed to be Magic City night for the Atlanta Hawks. Do you know what Magic City is? Magic City is a gentleman's club in Atlanta. And the Hawks wanted to pay tribute to the famed strip club. And it was Magic City night at the Atlantic Hawks game. Now, how would you celebrate that? They were going to include the club's famous lemon pepper wings, along with live music by Atlanta native T.I., as well as exclusive merchandise. Yeah, I'm not making this up. Magic City Strip Club night, the Atlanta Hawks taking on the Orlando Magic, until somebody from the San Antonio Spurs found out about it. Luke Cornett, who told the NBA office, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. Once the NBA office heard about it, Adam Silver of the NBA commissioner came out and said, we became aware of the Hawks scheduled promotion, and we reached out to the Hawks, and we decided after talking to our stakeholders, fans, partners, and employees, we believe canceling this promotion is the right decision for the broader NBA community. So, for those of you going to the Hawks Magic game in Atlanta on Monday, it is no longer Magic City Strip Club night for the game. No word on if they're going to refund your ticket purchase. That is a true story. How about Foxborough refusing to pay $7.8 million in security fees so that the World Cup can play their games at the stadium? This is coming to a head. We'll talk to a man who knows quite a bit about it. And what type of financial incentive or financial benefit is the World Cup coming to America? We'll talk to him next. Stay right there. America at Night.
Text line is open. Send us a message at 844-2-McGraw. That's 844-262-4729.
Well, the World Cup is coming to America this summer, and there's a small developing problem in Massachusetts, and that is who is going to pay the $7.8 million security fee that Foxborough is saying they need to get paid before they will open up the stadium. To talk about it is sports economist and professor at the College of Holy Cross, Dr. Victor Matheson. Doctor, welcome to America at Night.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So in brief and broad strokes, what is the controversy here?
Well, the controversy here is someone, the lawyers either for FIFA or the lawyers for Bob Kraft, the owner of Gillette Stadium, didn't read the contract very carefully to determine who is going to pay roughly $8 million of security costs. And this is huge egg on the face of FIFA and the Krafts, not understanding the contract each party was signing.
Okay, so Foxborough town is saying what? You don't get the permit until someone pays the security fee?
Right. So let's imagine we've got World Cup here, and we have about 7 games in Gillette, and someone has to pay security there, and it costs about $1 million a game for a major event like this to happen. Normally, when Bob Kraft hosts a Patriots game, this is all part of his deal with the city. But when he signed his stadium over to FIFA, apparently somewhere along the line, the lawyers forgot to include who is paying for the security when these games come. And Kraft is saying, hey, look, I'm just giving you the stadium. I didn't say anything about providing security. And of course, the city is saying, look, we don't own the stadium, and your deal is with Kraft. Someone has to come up with this extra $8 million.
How much longer do they have before the World Cup gets here? It's coming awful quick, and the window is upon us. How much time do we have to resolve this issue?
The city of Foxborough is saying we have maybe in the vicinity of about 2 weeks before we really have to start putting plans in place to hire those security, make sure we have people available for this game. And again, they're not going to go through those steps unless they know they can come up with the $8 million, because Foxborough is not a big town. It's a town of about 20,000 folks. $8 million is a huge proportion of their budget. This is not something they can cover themselves, nor should they be expected to cover it themselves.
Doctor, for you and me, $7.8 million is a lot of money. But for the Crafts and FIFA, that's a nickel or a dime that they pull out of the couch. So why don't they just split it and move on?
Well, first of all, no one wants to, figure out who's going to pay $8 million. And I think Kraft is fairly insistent that, look, I sent this document in. And I think this, quite honestly, lies all in FIFA. And again, let's remember, FIFA stands to make about $10 billion from this event. So the security for the Boston venue is less than 0.1% of the revenues they're generating. Again, this is all on FIFA. Again, not reading their contract carefully.
I'll get to FIFA in a second, but I want to game plan this out. What happens if no one comes up with the $7.8 million? Do you think they'll have to change stadiums, or is someone going to have to bite the bullet on this?
Yeah, I think the real answer is that they cannot realistically change stadiums at this point. They've sold tickets to people for millions. They sold millions and millions of dollars of tickets to people on the assumption that they're going to be flying into Boston. People have made plane ticket reservations. They made hotel reservations. So this cannot change without gigantic problems for FIFA at this point. So the real question is, at what point does FIFA just bite the bullet and pay the $8 million and write it all off as bad lawyering on their part?
Dr. Victor Matheson, sports economist and professor at the College of Holy Cross. Doctor, you've made quite a bit of noise over the years. Do you think the World Cup is profitable and worth it?
Well, so, I mean, on the one hand, you think it's going to make a lot of money. Well, you figure that the hotels in the Boston area are going to be full. They're charging premium prices. I've seen numbers from most cities, about $1 billion of impact. The problem with those sort of estimates is that they don't take into account the sort of costs associated with the event. And this is basically Boston can't host any convention travel for an entire month because they don't have hotel capacity, because it's all being used up for the World Cup. Most people won't be able to take regular vacations to Boston unless you're there for the World Cup, because again, hotels are filled up with World Cup travelers rather than regular travelers. And again, Boston's a popular tourist destination in the summer anyway. So again, you have to worry about crowding out. You have to worry about the fact that Boston residents who are putting money into FIFA's pocket, that's money that's not going into the pockets of the Red Sox or the Revolution or the Patriots, right? So this is money that's going back to Switzerland and going into the pockets of FIFA. So that's money that leaks out of the economy. So there's a bunch of reasons why the numbers aren't as good as they look here. Certainly for Foxborough, these are very much not as good as they look. There's no way that Foxborough as a city is going to make $8 million that they can use to pay for the security out of their own pockets. Because why? Everyone else is going to stay in Boston, and Foxborough, they're just going to go and play the games and then eat in some other town? Right. So Foxborough itself has basically no hotel capacity. It has almost no restaurant capacity. It is a distant suburb. Very few people coming from Germany, coming from Brazil, coming from Japan are going to stay in Foxborough. Again, they'll stay in downtown Boston. So the taxes that are going to be generated, to the extent they are going to be generated from outside the city of Foxborough, not from the city of Foxborough itself. Hence, they're not in any hurry to eat that $8 million themselves. So let me understand this. Your premise is that Boston would have already filled their hotels, the restaurants would already be busy, so those people are going to get crowded out, and then the World Cup people are going to move in. So ultimately, it's a net zero? So my guess is that it's not quite a net zero, but when you do all the subtraction, from this, if you do just the addition and the multiplication, you can get a huge number. But after you do the subtraction, probably small, but not nearly as big. And the number I tell people is that take whatever FIFA's telling you, move the decimal place one place to the left, and that's a pretty good guess about what's actually going to happen to the local economy. So take every one of these things with a huge grain of salt.
Does Foxborough make money off the Patriots playing there?
Only to the extent that for every Patriots game, Bob Kraft very specifically has in his contract, which, mind you, Kraft and the city have actually read this contract and understand what's in it. Kraft pays for the additional money that Foxborough has to come up with for these events. So normally they don't take a big loss on it. Again, because they're getting compensated by Kraft when the Patriots are in town or when the Revolution, the MLS team, is in town.
Okay, Doctor, let's play devil's advocate here. Most people have never heard of this small little hamlet called Foxborough. Isn't it beneficial for Foxborough to be on the name where they're playing the stadium, and it'll help the worldwide reputation to gain attention throughout the U.S.?
Yeah, so putting yourself on the map actually is a super important thing, and use this advertising is great. This may be something that benefits Boston because Boston has a lot to offer foreign visitors and may not be known as well as, a New York or a Los Angeles. So you can make that argument for Boston as a whole. You can't make that argument for Foxborough because no one coming from Germany that has a great time at this game says, hey, I'm going to tell all my friends and family, hey, let's go to the United States next year. We'll go to Disney World. We'll go to New York City. We'll go to the Grand Canyon, and we'll go to Foxborough, Massachusetts. No one has ever said that because there's not really a there. Remember, this is a small suburb town with nothing but a gigantic stadium in it. And quite honestly, the reason the stadium was put there is because there was nothing there. Stadiums take up a lot of space. And back in the old days, when they first built the stadium, they said, hey, what's the least valuable and least important place in Massachusetts that we can put a big stadium that's going to sit empty most of the year? And they said Foxborough, Massachusetts would be a good place for it.
So not only did they build one stadium, but they built two stadiums there.
Well, they built the second one right on top of it because once it was already there, it had some transportation infrastructure. They owned the land, they owned the space, and so it worked out well for the Crafts to rebuild there rather than try to find somewhere else in the Boston area to do it. But again, it was originally built back in the 70s on an abandoned track site, horse track site, because the land was cheap and easy. And of course, there's not a lot there for a tourist to do other than go to a World Cup game. What
do you make of the Super Bowl? Is the Super Bowl beneficial to a region?
So again, the Super Bowl suffers from the same problems of crowding out and some substitution effect. Again, the Super Bowl is clearly positive. Every economic study of it has been positive, but it's also been positive to an extent, roughly 1/10 of what the NFL says. So if the NFL is telling you, look, bring the Super Bowl in, it's worth $1 billion. I would never disagree and say the Super Bowl is not worth anything to you. But most of the data that we've actually seen when we've gone back and looked at economies is about 100 million, maybe 150 million of benefit.
Dr. Victor Matheson, sports economist and professor at the College of Holy Cross. Is there any sporting event, Olympics, World Series, the World Baseball Challenge, is anything worth what they say it's worth?
So nothing is worth what they say it's worth. That being said, a lot of these things are worth having because they do generate something without a lot of cost. So you'd certainly rather have the NBA Finals than not have them. You just want to put a bunch of money into actually generating what you need to put these things in. In the big picture, the worst of all the things is definitely the Olympics, because the Olympics not only don't bring as much economic impact as you would suggest, they're also wildly, wildly expensive to put on. And so therefore, it's almost impossible not to lose your shirt on the Olympics.
Okay, I understand that argument. But after watching the Olympics in northern Italy for the world to watch, wasn't that just a 2-week commercial to go and visit northern Italy and ultimately it will be paid back over the years?
Certainly that's possible. And for certain places, we have actually seen that. So, for example, Barcelona, did have long-run tourism benefits from this. And so did Utah when they had the Winter Olympics. Skiing visits, for example, went up significantly more in Utah than in neighboring Colorado over the next 10 years. That being said, for most places, it doesn't work. Atlanta didn't see any big long-term tourism boom, nor did a place like London or Paris. So again, if you're exactly this right kind of overlooked diamond, then those are the sort of places that could definitely benefit. Foxborough isn't the diamond. It's overlooked, but it's not a diamond. Boston itself might be a hidden gem, but it's unlikely that Foxborough specifically is one.
All right, so Foxborough, and then, of course, the rest of the World Cup, and they're playing throughout the whole country. It's the North American World Cup. So you're going to have tourists from all over the world spending money here throughout the U.S. Regions are tripping over themselves to get a venue. And then, of course, the championship game. Ultimately, Doctor, you're saying that all of that is just what?
All of it's inflated. It's not nothing, but it's inflated. But of course, in the United States, where you do have large facilities in place already, that works pretty well, right? Because we didn't build any new stadiums, and so therefore, the United States will almost certainly come out ahead. It's just not going to come out ahead to the tens of billions of dollars that FIFA likes to put on that. So any individual city is likely to come out definitely ahead, again, because they didn't have to build billion-dollar stadiums like Brazil did, like Russia did for previous World Cups. It's just not going to be as beneficial as is said, and it certainly is not beneficial enough that you're willing to, put in the $8 million of security yourself if you're a small town like Foxborough.
Doctor, what are the odds of Foxborough caving and just saying, all right, we'll eat the $7.8 million?
Extremely low. The only thing I could say of people caving, I could see Massachusetts as a whole potentially caving and coming up with the money that Foxborough doesn't have. But again, we're talking about a tiny, tiny town, 20,000 people. Divide $8 million over 20,000 people. That is a gigantic ask for every single person in that town for someone else to come have a party for 30 days in their town.
Dr. Victor Matheson, sports economist and professor at the College of Holy Cross. I got to give you a shout out. My grandfather graduated from Holy Cross, so he's smiling on this conversation from heaven. Doctor, thank you for checking in. Thank you for your insight. Good luck, be safe, and have a good day.
My pleasure to be here, and it's going to be a fun event, and it's going to make a lot of people happy. It's just not likely to make a lot of people rich.
There you go. Dr. Victor Matheson with the College of Holy Cross. America at Night. Back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Welcome to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, whip around the news. We've got some interesting stories that are not getting a lot of attention. 5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team have been granted asylum by Australia amid concerns about their safety if they returned home. How about that? Also today, Uber announced that it is going to give riders the option of hiring a female-only driver. Uber has done this today, or in the last day or two. Lyft has obviously given this option for years and years and years, and I can't tell you how many women I have spoken to over the years who say they would rather get into a driverless car. They feel safer in a driverless car than calling an Uber and getting into a strange car with a strange man to drive them wherever they want to go. And so now Uber has announced that it is expanding its women-only option. So if you're a woman and you want to call an Uber, you can call for a female-only option so that you apparently would feel safer. I thought that was really very interesting. Also, here's one for you as well. It's Mario Brothers from Nintendo, right? Story in the paper today that Nintendo wants its tariff money back from the Trump administration and is suing to get us back. But did anybody know where Mario from Mario Brothers, who he was based on? What was the inspiration for Mario? Did you know that Mario's real name was based on a guy named Mario Senegal, a landlord? Yeah, who knew? Mario is a real guy based on a landlord who leased a warehouse to Nintendo in the early days. And so they liked the guy who was the landlord, apparently, and they named the character Mario based on the landlord where Nintendo's offices were, and he became a worldwide sensation. Speaking of that, has anybody seen the movies? And I say this because I have a 5-year-old, and I've seen this movie maybe, I don't know, give or take. I don't want to over dramatize this, but maybe I've seen this movie maybe 792 times. Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet 2. They're actually pretty good movies. It's kind of a cute movie. They're actually pretty good. Based on, right, Wreck-It Ralph is supposed to be the Mario, I guess, or the King Kong in Donkey Kong, right? But yeah, Mario, the real Mario, was based on a real guy who was a landlord who leased the warehouse to a Nintendo. So there you go. Learn something new. All right, coming up next hour, we're going to check in with every other week we check in with the national parks. And this week we're going to check in with the Badlands of South Dakota. Questions, 1-844-2-McGraw. Text your questions. Also, we'll do open phones next hour. Thanks for checking in this hour. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, next hour we'll open up the phones and text line and have some fun going to the phones. But this hour, we're going to talk a little national parks, fast becoming one of my favorite hours on the show. Every 2 weeks, every other week, on a Tuesday night, we check in with the national park in honor of the 250th anniversary of this great country and the national parks, one of our greatest accomplishments, being able to save this land for generations. Tonight's national park is the Badlands in South Dakota, the Badlands National Park. And to talk about it is Marissa Marshall, Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. Marissa, welcome to America at Night.
Why, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
You got it. You grew up in South Dakota, so it sounds like this is your dream job just down the block.
Right? One would think. Who could imagine?
Yeah. How did you get involved with all this?
Oh, that's a great question. Former life was fundraising for South Dakota State University and got to know one of the founding board members of the Conservancy, Mr. Craig Pugsley. And after I decided to no longer work for the university anymore, he called me up and he said, Marissa, we need help fundraising, and I think you could help us out. And so I ended up on the board, and years later we decided we had a lot of work that needed to be done, hired an executive director, and I was board chair at that time. And she ended up taking a different opportunity, and I said, well, you know what? I think this sounds like a pretty fun job. And why don't I just take this on? So
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate to be able to do it. I'm grateful.
So the Badlands, we know they're in South Dakota. I haven't been there. I've been close as I've got, I guess, is Norfolk, Nebraska. So I've gotten relatively close to the area. But give us a little sense. Give us the hook. What are the Badlands National Park?
Oh, wow. I figured you would ask this question. So I would say first and foremost, it kind of feels like you're on another planet the first time that you get there. You know, it's kind of a meld of colors between what you imagine the moon and Mars must look like. But if you'll allow me to indulge everybody and maybe your listeners, I did write a little something about maybe what this would feel like if you were kind of driving in. So
Marissa,
give me a couple minutes, maybe I'd do that.
Marissa, the floor is yours. What do you got?
All right. So from a native South Dakotan's experience and perspective, you're driving east, or let's say you're driving west or northwest from Norfolk, Nebraska, and across the state of South Dakota, and the road is seemingly endless. You're passing the Missouri River. You're rolling over hills that gently roll the vehicle forward. You recognize signage for tribal lands, and you note that the history of this place is far deeper than meets the eye. You turn left into the Badlands National Park, surrounded by a sea of prairie grass, completely submersed in the way the wind blows across the long stems, creating a visual of gentle waves that resemble the seashore. And then in the distance, you can see these pinnacles and spire structures jutting up out of the earth with layers, the colors of the moon and Mars. You drive towards them, they get bigger. And as you approach, you drive past a herd of bison, lumbering with thundering hooves as they move across the prairie. You see bighorn sheep trotting up and down the geologic formations that reveal tens of millions of years of history of the earth. You park, you walk to the edge of the overlook, and it's as if you can see the end of the earth. The vastness paired with the strength of the wind takes your breath away. You look back at your vehicle, and a prairie dog town is alive and busy with prairie dogs running and jumping and rolling towards one another. You look back out across the landscape. The sun is setting. The colors that make up the layers of the Badlands change and shade with each passing moment. And it's becoming an extension of the colorful display. You look down and see what looks like a little white rock, and you dig around it a little bit, uncovering a fossil that hadn't been seen by anyone for the last 13 million years. You're still sitting, captivated by it all, not remembering the time, listening to the grunts of the bison in the distance, the sound of the wind tickling the tips of the wild prairie grass. You lay backwards. It's now dark. And the awe and wonder that the Badlands landscape stirred within you is now transitioning to the night sky. And the Milky Way is on full display. The constellations far, far away. And those galaxies, they feel close enough to touch. You can't believe the sound of nothing at all could be so loud and so peaceful all at once. It's dark. It's really dark. And frankly, it's an experience that makes you forget all the plans you made before it and all the things you'll do after it. The Badlands consumes your time and attention in a way only national parks can. And that, McGraw, is why all of us at the Badlands Conservancy and all of our passionate and generous supporters are so committed to protecting it.
Marissa Marshall, Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. Did you write that?
I sure did.
Yeah,
just for
it's
you.
Beautiful. No, it's beautiful, and you told you told a great story. It's 244,000 acres, and I guess it's. Well, let me do this. Let's take a break. Let's leave that there. When we come back, we'll sort of dive into the who, the what, the why, the Native Americans, the bison, and everything with the Badlands in South Dakota. Marissa Marshall, Executive Director, the Badlands National Park Conservancy. It's our honor to talk about the national parks every other week with the National Park organization, the National Park Foundation. America at Night, back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
The 244,000 acres Badlands National Park is the topic tonight in our ongoing series with the National Park Foundation celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country. Marissa Marshall is the executive director. Marissa, let's go all the way back. Apparently, this was the home of dinosaurs, and they're really, tell me what we know, and apparently this is where all the paleontologists go to study. Tell me about that.
That's right. Yeah, we have an actual paleontology lab within the visitor center at the Badlands. So visitors are the people that find most of the fossils in the park even. They can take fossils back into the visitor center and hand them to the paleontologists and see the work that the preparators are doing to preserve these things. The Badlands, used to be a sea. So used to be totally immersed underwater, and that's part of why you can see the erosion, and it has been such a rich fossil bed for so many years.
You make it sound like you can just take a nice little hike and find some type of fossil.
That's the reality. That's what people do every day when they visit the Badlands.
Really? So and what do you find? Do you find dinosaur bones? Do you find fish bones? What do you find?
Oh, it's a good mix of things. The paleontologists at the park are probably the true experts on the age of the fossils, et cetera. But one of the largest T-Rex dinosaurs that exist is just north of where the Badlands are, a couple hours in Faith, South Dakota, is where they originally found it. So everything from dinosaurs to saber-toothed cats to all different types of mammals, and I believe even amphibians. I should read up on that probably a little more.
Tell me about the Indians, because it was home to a number of Native American tribes. Tell me a little bit of that history.
Yeah, the entire Badlands National Park at one time belonged to the tribe, and I think the relationship with tribal partners is still such a strong piece of what makes Badlands Badlands. This was their home. It continues to be their home, has a lot of spiritual significance. One of my favorite stories, our board chair was the initial former board chair, Charles Aberesk, told me at one point that the name of the Badlands kind of came even from some of the Native American storytelling. And there was this mischievous spirit that I guess got loose in the Badlands, and all the other spirits were throwing lightning bolts looking for it. And so that's why you have these kind of jagged edges and structures in the Badlands from those lightning bolts looking for this spirit. Go ahead.
Now, is it true that the national park is run by both the National Park Service as well as the Native American tribes?
So there's a co-management agreement between the North Unit and the South Unit, and the South Unit still has a buffalo herd that's managed separately from the herd that's on the North Unit, but it's really a true partnership to make sure that the entire system is taken care of.
Yeah. The outline of the park looks like a gerrymandered congressional district. Take me through the shape of this. How did that come to be? Why is that the shape of the national park?
Oh, I couldn't tell you the exact lines and boundaries, but a big part of it is because that's how the structures of the Badlands look. There's really a wall that runs both through the North and the South Unit, and the land around that wall is really what's being protected. And so when you stand on an overlook, you can be above or below the wall. If you're below, you're not able to kind of see as far as you can as if you are kind of standing up on top of that overlook. So it's really protecting that ridge of all of this kind of drop off into the sea, let's say. that used
And
to be there.
yeah, and it's mountains as well as prairie, which is an interesting juxtaposition, right? I mean, it's the two of them combined that sort of makes it all together.
Right, yeah. It's one of the largest natural grass, prairie grass areas that we have left. And I mean, I think we have the second largest buffalo herd in the National Park Service, second only to Yellowstone. And so it takes care of a lot of wildlife because of that prairie grass as well.
How many can you stay in the park? Can you camp in the park? Is there a river to sort of boat and float down the park? Tell me some of the things visitors can do while they're there.
Yeah, maybe I'll just run you through, like at a high level, what I kind of would recommend as a daily itinerary for people.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe you come in off the I-90 interior exit, you pick up some snacks at the trading post, you come in, you do a couple hikes by the door window hike just after the visitor center booth, have some really great expansive views. You'd pop down into the Ben Rifle Visitor Center where you'd meet our incredible Park Service staff. Right next door to the visitor center is an amphitheater where a lot of our programming goes on, particularly, night sky programming and that of the Astronomy Festival if you're there in mid-July. And then we also have a great concession partner that has a lodge, and so there are cabins right next to the visitor center you can stay in. And then there's food that's served out of the lodge there, along with some really great opportunities of things you can purchase. There's also a campground right next to the lodge and the amphitheater where you can stay. And so that would be my recommendation for the first day, kind of make that first trek in, stay either at the cabin or at the campground, get up early in the morning and get out on the loop road, maybe stop and do one other hike. It seems like wildlife are really moving that time of day. So you're able to see a lot more, even just horses on adjacent farms and really beautiful views of the sun coming up. And I want to call that out too, that the layers of the Badlands really kind of change colors on the direction in which the sun is touching them. And so I think that's really a unique aspect. But maybe you drive the loop road, you end up kind of up towards where you could leave the park, out towards the wall exit. That's up where the buffalo and the bison typically hang out. Seems like you can get out of your car and not pet the fluffy cow. We don't want that. But then you could go down towards Sage Creek Wilderness, spend the night down there. That's actually the location that's got the darkest night sky readings. And so it would be really ideal for you to spend the night there and really take in just this expansive view of the Milky Way and more stars than you've ever seen. So that would be, and then probably trek on down the next morning towards the South Unit. I would hike Sheep Mountain, which is kind of a hidden secret in the Badlands, but it has 360 views of the Badlands and cypress trees on the top of this plateau, which you wonder, how does anything grow on the top of this plateau / mountain here? And then there is a wonderful visitor center in the South Unit that really talks about cultural heritage and the tribal story and tribal perspective. And so that's something I would absolutely take in before maybe heading back towards Rapid City, where maybe you want to spend the night and go see something like Mount Rushmore or Devil's Tower or Wind Cave or Custer State Park.
I do want to get to Mount Rushmore in a second, but what was the name of that hidden secret mountaintop? What was that you mentioned again?
If you didn't catch it, I won't say it again. I'll be in trouble.
Okay. All right. We got to go find you then to find out. Remember,
right.
this is a podcast, and you can rebroadcast this at your own discretion where all fine podcasts are found. Marissa Marshall, Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. A lot more to get to. I want to talk about that nighttime sky, that dark constellation they talk about. Also, they got a new visitor center. I want to ask about fishing and, of course, Mount Rushmore, all of that. The Badlands National Park is in focus tonight as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of this great country and the Badlands of South Dakota. Also, how many visitors make the trek to South Dakota for the Badlands each and every year. We're just getting started. America at Night, back in a moment.
You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Give McGraw a piece of your mind. Call now, 844-262-4729.
.934 here. Whoa, sorry about that. It's America at Night. Our guest tonight is Marissa Marshall. She's Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy, and we're talking about the Badlands National Park in South Dakota. Marissa, how many visitors a year does the Badlands National Park get?
On average, about 1 million visitors.
Oh, my goodness. I got to tell you a story. It was, I guess it was last summer. We were having a barbecue, and my sister was in town, and I just sort of on a whim was like, you know what I always wanted to do? I always want to rent an RV and drive up to go see Mount Rushmore. And the 8 people were at the table just blurted out, I'm in. It's something I always wanted to do. It seems like everybody has that dream to rent an RV and go see the Badlands and go see Mount Rushmore. Am I the only one? Is my family the only crazy family, or does everybody have that idea?
Well, I think most people have it, especially these days. We're all trying to escape our own current reality, right? So go dream a little bit.
And so you see people driving in the park with RVs and families going up there and doing a 2-week stay or whatever else. I mean, that's very normal.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the Black Hills Badlands region of South Dakota. That is literally all we see. Incredible campgrounds, tons of things for kids to do. Obviously, I have a Sturgis bike rally, you have Corvette rally, all these things that bring millions and millions of visitors to that region. And so I think the Badlands is one of those destinations. Mount Rushmore is one of those destinations as well. And I mean, last time I was in the park, well, not the last time, but in September when it was still kind of peak tourism season, the kids had gone back to school and the whole place was packed with those Sprinter vans. You know what I'm talking about?
You mean like the little teardrop ones?
Yeah, they look kind of like your Amazon delivery van, but they're all souped up with big tires and stuff. And so I don't know if all the retirees are getting these nice vans now and going camping. Is a little less of like pulling something along behind you or whatever, but they look pretty nice, I have to admit.
Now, Marissa, is Mount Rushmore, is that part of the Badlands or is it not part of the Badlands?
Good question. Not part of the Badlands. So Mount Rushmore is I'd say about an hour as the crow flies away from the Badlands to the west, a little bit southwest.
But you can do it in conjunction. I mean, that's part. If someone's going to the Badlands, they have to make a stop off at Mount Rushmore.
I would think so. And vice versa, I would advocate.
Yeah. Talk about the Dark Skies initiative that you guys have. You sort of mentioned about the Milky Way, and give us some of the things we can do, some of the places we can go, and some of the people we can talk to find out what it is we're actually looking at.
So I think this became apparent, I don't know, I want to say sometime in the last 10 years. You know, the Badlands National Park staff have been having night sky programming through the summer months since I can remember. But that's one of the big initiatives that we've been working on with the Conservancy, is trying to find ways to expand that programming year round. You know, South Dakota gets kind of cold in the winter, and actually that makes for some of the best night sky viewing. So the Conservancy, we have helped fund and install different lighting so we can meet this International Dark Sky Park lighting requirements. We've done some scientific measurements, and we actually funded some devices for the park to be able to measure their darkness of the sky. I mentioned that about Sage Creek Wilderness being one of the darkest locations in the park. And when I say dark, I mean, it's like standing 5 feet away from another human being and not seeing their silhouette. I mean, it is incredibly dark. And so that makes for just wonderful night sky viewing. And 80% of Americans have never seen the Milky Way, which as a native South Dakotan just blows me away every time I say that out loud. But it's really a privilege, and it's something that we need to be passionately protecting. And so there's a wonderful organization, International Dark Sky Association, that has done a lot of work advocating for dark sky conservation around the world. And several national parks have achieved dark sky park status. I think there's 15 or 16 total in the country, Big P parks, that have achieved this dark sky status. And we're hoping that the Badlands can be added to that list in short time.
And so what does that dark sky certification mean? It's that one of the darkest places where you can go see into space as far as you can see?
Yeah, so you meet a certain set of scientific requirements that basically measure the light pollution in that location. And so the Badlands would be one of the least light polluted areas in the world to achieve that designation.
I suspect you see quite a number of people out there stargazing with a telescope, I would think.
Yeah, so people bring their own telescopes. So it's kind of one of the exciting things about this growth in astrotourism all over the world. And I mean, from deserts to Saudi Arabia to places like the Badlands to Utah, et cetera. It's something that isn't, requiring a ton of infrastructure improvement. People can kind of come and set up a telescope without interrupting much of the Earth's surface or anything. And I think that's pretty attractive to a lot of these areas concerned about conservation. But I also think there's a great opportunity, particularly in the Badlands, for this to be much more than just a designated location of a dark sky, and really grow this into something that looks like an opportunity to have STEM education and youth engagement and cultural storytelling. I mean, the Lakota people believe that they were born of the stars. And so to hear even that origin story told through the night sky by a Lakota person is just incredible.
I can only imagine, right? I mean, to tell you the stories of their grandfather's grandfather had the story, and they tell the stories that they looked up into the sky and told, 100 years or so ago. That must be phenomenal.
Just one more reason why we need to protect it.
Yeah. From the text line here at America at Night, no joking aside, Marissa, we take all comers here on the show. Somebody wanted me to ask you about Bigfoot. Has Bigfoot ever been seen in the Badlands National Park?
Not to my knowledge, but we better ask the park superintendent that question.
Okay, so as of now, you have not seen or heard any sightings of Bigfoot.
That's correct.
Marissa Marshall, Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy, which is sort of the Friends group to the national park. Tell us about the Friends group. When did it get started, and how can we join? And give us some of the things you're working on going forward.
Absolutely. So the Badlands National Park Conservancy started around, I'd say, 2017, 2018, and really was just a passionate group of people in the Badlands, Black Hills area that recognized that there are all these wonderful friends groups like the Mount Rushmore Society, who we would aspire to become someday, that do incredible things to support national parks above and beyond any of the federal appropriations that they receive. And last year created a lot of change in the National Park Service. And so we were asked to support things and do things at a different level, as well as so many of the national park partners were asked to do. So we fund everything from paleontologists that work during the off-tourism season, continuing to prepare fossils. We mentioned, people find fossils nearly every single day in the park, and that's a little bit faster than how fast we can prepare them. So there's quite a backlog of fossils that need to be worked on. And so we have a very generous supporter that helps us do that. We funded a drone program, emergency management program, in honor, honestly, from our initial founder, Randy Seiler. He was the first board chair and has been kind of a living legacy within the organization, just as we think about innovative ways to, of course, take care of visitors and wildlife in the park, but also just find different ways for people to enhance their visitor experience. We're currently building a new visitor center in the park. The current one's 60 years old, if you can believe that. So, and the one we build here in the next 3 to 5 years is probably going to be there for the next 60 years. So we're being very intentional about what goes into that. We're having a lot of conversations about other programming, other infrastructure that we can build to support, particularly that Night Skies initiative. We've got some neat art projects going on right now. Always looking at ways we can do storytelling, and the National Park Foundation actually has been a great partner for us in doing some of that interpretive storytelling, and awarded the Badlands Conservancy a grant for us to really engage the Lakota people in telling that story intentionally in the new visitor center through some exhibits. And so we're really grateful for their support as well.
Marissa Marshall, a couple more minutes with you, Executive Director of the Friends Group for the Badlands National Park. Is it true that Dances with Wolves was filmed in the park?
I don't know if it was filmed in the park, but in western South Dakota.
Okay, fair enough. What about fishing opportunities? Can you fish in the park?
So there's not really a major stream. That's a good question. There's a lot of fishing in the Black Hills, obviously the Missouri River, and then the whole eastern side of South Dakota has a ton of lakes that are full of fresh walleye, but not necessarily in the Badlands. No.
Okay. What about bison? Can you go on a bison safari? Can you see? I mean, tell me about how we can get up close and personal with a herd of bison.
No, I don't think you want to be too close, but
okay.
I will tell you, there's a wonderful video that we had made last year, and maybe you can link to it in the show notes here, but it's at our website, badlandslegacy.org, and it's just a wonderful depiction of how close you can be to a bison by literally just driving and parking next to a rock and getting out, and a bison walking right by you. And this time of year, of course, there's some calves, which is even more fun to watch. But I will say, too, one of my other favorite things about the park, I want to make sure and say this, is that, and what makes it so unique, is that there's an open hike policy. So you can just get out of your car and go adventure into the Badlands. And I think because of that, and also the remoteness of the location, these hidden secrets of different locations that you can kind of hike and have incredible views, it's just this sense of solitude that you get when you go there that I think really evokes this different emotion than you get in a lot of our national parks nowadays. We have how many headlines of them being kind of crowded and it being difficult. You're standing in a line to go on a nature hike. It just doesn't seem like the way that's supposed to be. And so that's one of my favorite things about the Badlands, is you just get this sense of kind of being all alone.
So the open hike policy means exactly what it says. You can just walk up any of the mountains, and if you've got the tools and the physical stature and everything else and the stamina, you can take a walk up one of the mountains. That it doesn't have to be a designated path?
Yes, sir. So there are some designated paths, and we've gotten a grant in partnership with All Trails, actually, to replace a couple landings on some of those designated paths just off the loop road. But you can drive out into the abyss, make sure you take water. That's half the reason we funded that drone program. So you can get kind of disoriented out there, and not to scare anybody either, but the Badlands is full of reptiles and a lot of rattlesnakes out in that area too. So things to kind of be prepared.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's for everybody, but it sounds like fun for somebody if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Last question for you, Marissa. I didn't know that it wasn't officially deemed a national park till 1978. Is that possible?
No, I should know that exact date off the top of my head, but it seems like there was a bombing range at one point in time. The whole area was kind of taken over by the federal government and turned into a bombing range during World War II. And then after the war ended, they transitioned it from a bombing range into a national park site. And so that's part of how that ever became federal lands versus tribal lands.
Really
But the date escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, that is really. I also find it fascinating that it is co-managed by the Oglala Sioux and the federal government. You don't hear that very often, and it is a very well-run working policy where the two of them are working together to run the Badlands National Park. Marissa, it's been an enjoyable hour. How does somebody find out more about your organization? How do they join, and where do they go?
Absolutely. So I would say check out our website, the video, especially the badlandslegacy.org. That'll show you kind of the overview, and it'll give you a lot of different ways to get connected to our organization, and we would welcome it. We're always looking for more fans.
Yeah. And earlier in the show, she talked about the hidden secret that no one knows about. And if you download the podcast, she won't tell us again. She let it slip out by accident. So download the podcast where all fine podcasts are found. Marissa Marshall, Executive Director of the Badlands National Park Conservancy. What's that website one more time?
badlandslegacy.org.
Marissa, thanks for being a good sport. Thanks for checking in. Great hour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You got it.
this.
America at Night. Back in a moment.
Celebrating the natural beauty of the United States, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Text line is open. Send us a message at 844-2-McGraw. That's 844-262-4729.
As a long-suffering New York Jets fan, I've got some sad news tonight. And no, it is not that the Jets have traded for Geno Smith, the Raiders quarterback that is now a New York Jet. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about news coming out tonight that Matt Snell, the fullback for the New York Jets when they won Super Bowl III and saved the NFL, has passed away in East Meadow, New York on Long Island. He died in a nursing home at the age of 84. He was part of that famed running back. He was the fullback, and Emerson Boozer was the halfback. And the two of them combined with Joe Namath to run the ball, keep the ball away from the Baltimore Colts offense, and they were able to win Super Bowl III 16-7. Matt Snell passes away at the age of 84. I personally would like to dedicate today's show to Matt Snell. I never met the man, but being a long-suffering Jet fan, I was just 2 years old when they won that Super Bowl. I don't remember it at all, but it has sustained me through 15 years of no playoffs and the longest winless, or the longest playoff streak or non-playoff streak currently in the NFL. So Matt Snell passes away at the age of 84. Dedicate today's show to him. And I don't have enough time to tell you, but when the wife asked, we were having a hard time trying to find names, and she threw out Emerson, and I thought to myself, that's the name of the famed New York Jets running back. Let's use that. So I told people I named her after Emerson Boozer, famed New York Jets running back. It works. Stay right there. Open phones next hour. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
All right, it's hour number 3. I don't know where the show went. Where did those first 2 hours go? I sit down and boom, you blink your eyes, and it's the third hour with open phones. Here are the phone numbers: 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Those are the phone numbers. It's also the place for your text messages. Scott in St. Louis will get to you here in a second. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Phone calls and text messages. Now, I was not very nice to the texters last night, so I want to get into some of those right now, and then we will go to the phones. Love the texts, love the calls. Jim from West Columbia, South Carolina. If the stadium in Foxborough can't figure out how to make $8 million on just beer and hot dogs, they need to get out of the hosting business. That's a little cynical. I was talking about the story we had in the first hour where Foxborough up in Massachusetts is not giving the permit to FIFA until somebody hands over the $7.8 million for the security detail. And I don't know, man. Those concession contracts usually end up going to the football team. Foxborough doesn't get a whole lot of those things, right? So I don't know what kind of deal Foxborough got, but when you're paying $19 for a beer, it ain't going to the town hall. It's going to the owner of the team. So I'm with Foxborough, man. I'm with them, right? Somebody's on the hook for $7.8 million, and it ain't going to be Foxborough. How about the billionaire owner of the stadium or the billion-dollar organization, FIFA? Why you want to stick it to the poor people of Foxborough? I love the fact that Foxborough is sticking up for itself and saying, hey, you want this stadium for the next, 8 matches? Someone's got to pay for security. So there you go. Tim in Washington. Hooters is shutting down, and now no Magic City night at the Atlanta Hawk games. Can't a guy catch a break? Yeah, how about that story? In Atlanta, they have Magic City night next Monday. What is Magic City? Well, since this is a family show, and I know children are listening, it is a, shall we say, a gentleman's club of great fame in Atlanta. And that they decided to pay homage and tribute the gentleman's club with a Magic City night. It was going to be the Orlando Magic and the Atlanta Hawks on Monday night. Well, a couple of people got wind and said maybe that's not the best thing we should do for a family-friendly entertainment venue and for a family-friendly NBA. And so maybe, just maybe, the women or the female fans might be a little offended by that. Throw in some men, too, mind you. And so the NBA has since called it off. Probably a pretty smart idea. But somebody in the marketing department at the Atlanta Hawks thought that was a good idea. Probably the same person who decided to call the Nashville hockey team the Predators. I've never understood that one. Do you know that the Nashville hockey team is called the Predators? Who was the ad wizard who came up with that one? The Nashville Predators. I don't know. That one's a strange one. Eden in Naples, Florida. Why did you cut off my text? I was quoting Jim Bohannon, a hero. Eden, I apologize. I was wrong last night. I didn't read it fully. So here is Eden's text from last night. Liz Cheney is a true Republican per Jim Bohannon's last message. So there you go. Here's another one. Raymond in Oregon. You're okay, but what's up with Tony in Canada? Why do you have to put him on every single night? I try to call and always get a busy signal. Raymond in Oregon. You're calling, the station you're listening to the show on is delayed. And so the open phones hour is delayed. We record or we broadcast live the open phones from 10 to 11 Central, which is 11 to midnight Eastern. Don't ask me to do the math on the West Coast. But 11 to 12 on the East Coast and 10 to 11 in the Central Time Zone. So we have quite a number of people who listen online and then call up, or I should say listen to the first hour and then call up in the, right? They're listening to the first hour while we're recording the third hour. So you just have to sort of adjust your clock and your listening schedule a little bit if you want to chime in. We'd love to have you call in, but you have to call in when I'm here. It doesn't work to call in on the tape delay. Let's see here. I want to Ford in Wisconsin. I want to apologize. What I text for you was not proper English. I hope you have a good weekend too, Alex. And the other guy, you too, McGraw, if that wasn't clear. So there you go. Here's the one. I hope the United Cajun Navy will get some input on Nancy Guthrie's whereabouts for the family members. That's Jerry in Minneapolis. Great radio show tonight. Thank you very much. Here's another one. In Geiger, this is Geiger in Akron, Ohio, or Paul, I should say. Every time I try to call in, I get a message that says you're on the phone. Does that mean your line is busy? Am I calling the wrong number? Again, I think you're calling. I think you're calling during the taped delay. Here's a good one. I mentioned that I came up with my idea in college back in the 80s was to come up with a alarm clock where you could record your voice. Here's one from Jared in Arkansas. Braun Electronics in Germany brought your voice memo alarm clock to market about 30 years ago. Well, clearly it was a good idea. Somebody else had it as well. All right. As a look at the, here's another one. Gail Sayers and Bob Gibson came from the same high school in Omaha. Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw came from the same high school in Dallas. The Oriole 20-game pitchers, same year, 1971. Palmer, Cuellar, Dobson, and McNally. Okay, good to know. And then we're off and running. All right. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. We got some phones for you right now. We'll get to them here in a second. We have a couple of lines open for you right now. Stay right there. Quick break. Back in a moment. It's Open Phones, America at Night on Westwood One.
Miss a portion of tonight's show? Not a problem. Go to americaatnightlive.com to find a replay of every show. Welcome back to America at Night. Call now, 844-262-4729. That's 844-2-McGraw.
Those phones we've been talking about. Scott in St. Louis, thanks for holding on. Welcome to America at Night. Hello.
Yeah, Carolyn Levitt, she said that when Trump said unconditional surrender, he did not mean that Iran had to surrender. So I consider that good news. I mean, it means that we, the people, are the boss.
Scott, first of all, you clearly did not take my advice from last night, did you?
No, I didn't.
No.
No.
So
This
you
is
really
what
don't
I
care.
do, man.
You don't really care about my mental health as well as you don't care about your mental health.
No. This is what I do, man. This is me.
Yeah, no. Here, you need to take a giant step back. In all seriousness, there is something that happens to your brain. It's the dopamine, the melatonin. Something happens to your brain when you constantly watch cable news. I don't care if it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC or News Nation or any of them. They're not meant to be watched 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will rot your brain, and you need to turn it off. You need to go read a book, watch a movie, take a walk, get a dog, get a hobby, do something. Mm-hmm. But it's just not healthy for you.
No, I'm just being myself. I go to X and Google a lot.
Yeah, don't do that either. Don't go to X. X is a cesspool. It is a cesspool.
Yeah.
Why are you going to Twitter? It is an utter cesspool. Again, turn it off.
Yeah, no, I conduct myself with class. I'm not saying you're the problem on Twitter. I'm saying right.
the 8-6 billion bots are the problem on Twitter, and they're rotting our brain. Go get it. Do you have any hobbies, Scott? And don't say watching news. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to ban you. I'm going to ban you from the show if you say watching news is your hobby.
I'm a writer.
You're a writer.
I'm a writer.
What do you write?
Yeah.
What do you write?
Well, I'm writing right now, man. I'm communicating. This is my art.
Okay. Well, look. Go write something. Go paint something. Go take up crochet. Go take up, I don't know, darts at the local bar. Grab a pint and go play some darts. Join a canasta league or something, man. But Scott, you got to turn it off. It's going to kill you. Mental health wise. It will. Oh no, it will.
It won't kill me.
Yeah.
It may kill. I mean, everyone's different.
I know, but I mean, seriously though, it's the cable news and the way they cover these things. It's like a sugar high. They give you a sugar high. It's like eating a gallon of ice cream every 15 minutes. You right? It's a dopamine hit, but then after you're finished, you're like, I didn't learn anything. I didn't know anything. I feel terrible.
Well, one thing I heard. They were talking about
oh my goodness,
this guy.
You didn't hear me. You didn't hear me, did you? You didn't hear me.
I'm telling you some positive news.
Scott, I gotta go. Scott, thanks for checking in.
Okay,
let's go. All right, let's go to Catherine in Vancouver. Catherine, welcome to America at Night.
Thank you. FIFA, the $8 million that they need for that goof up on their contract.
Yes.
I have a really good idea.
Okay.
I think everybody down there that should do a bed and breakfast and do a breakfast platter called Egg on Your Face. And I know it would sell. Because it would totally sell like hotcakes.
Who would sell this? I'm afraid to ask.
Everybody has a bed and breakfast.
And who would they sell this to? And the money would go to pay for the security for the World Cup?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's an idea. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's an idea. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
Make lots of money.
Anything else, Catherine? Yep. Thank you. Thanks for checking in, Catherine. All right. Slow news night. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. Bomb until unconditional surrender. There's only one problem with that from the text line. They've bombed Gaza into dust, and Hamas hasn't given up. And if Iran hasn't given up now, how much longer they don't care about their citizens. They don't care if they destroy the country. They only care about holding on to power. So to get an unconditional surrender, which apparently they're asking for but not necessarily needing to get. So, all right, the administration really needs to do a better job of sort of communicating what they actually want to do and what actual victory looks like. But regime change, we already have it. If you don't want the Ayatollahs still in charge, it's going to be very, very difficult. I'm not saying impossible, and that's the best outcome, and I guess we're all rooting for that. But I don't see, from everything the Iranian regime has done for the last 50 years, and watching the landscape, Saddam Hussein, they offered him right before they went in, they offered him an exile. They offered him peace and live out your days and have your children live. And what did Bush do, right? Take this deal and give up. And he said no. So what happened? His sons were killed. His family was killed. Ultimately, he was captured in a in a hole and then executed, right? He could have given up and lived on a island somewhere in paradise for the rest of his days. No, he didn't give up. He went down with the ship. So I don't see this clerical regime giving up power unless it is taken from them. They don't give it up voluntarily, and I don't think much of them do. So what type of regime change they're looking for, I don't know. But I'm not so sure bombing them is going to get to where we want them to get. Hoping it does, but I don't think so. I also said, well, I'll tell you what I said. I made a prediction the other day. I'll tell you what that prediction is on the air. Stay right there. America at Night, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. More phone calls, more text messages straight ahead. Back in a moment.
Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. The floor is yours. Call or text 844-262-4729. That's 844-2-McGraw.
All right, we've got Alex in Mountain View, California. Hello.
Thank you for taking my call. I want to say that regime change in Iran is not a reasonable goal, but there is one reasonable goal, and that is to help the Kurds in Iran and also the Kurds in Iraq to create a single nation for the Kurdish people. The Kurds, among all the Muslims, are the most pro-Western group. They would start their existence as an independent nation as an ally of Israel. That would have a stabilizing effect in the region. Two democratic, pro-Western nations that share our values. That would be excellent, in my opinion.
And so you would want to break up Iran and Iraq?
Not necessarily break up. You leave the non-Kurdish parts of Iraq and non-Kurdish parts of Iran in their current form, but you would take out the piece which are populated by the Kurds and give them the nation they wanted for so long. I want to add also very quickly that.
Well, hold on a second, but that's dividing Iran and Iraq in half, or right? Dividing it up.
Well, the Kurds are only 10% of the Iranian population. They're not going to take like half the nation or half the territory. So it's a part of it, but you give them what they wanted for so long. And I want to add that the Kurds basically paid in blood for this debt we owe them. When they fought ISIS, the Americans stood at a safe distance while the Kurds did all the fighting. So I think we owe them something here, and I think we need to do right by them and to help them to get that independent nation. And this has tremendous benefits for the West because they are the most pro-Western Muslims, as far as I know, in the Middle East.
Well, there is Iran, or more importantly, Iran is made up of many different minorities. Would you be in favor of giving other minorities their own piece of land?
No, because it is the Kurds that sacrificed their blood to fight ISIS for us. We owe them. So, but these other characters, the other ethnic groups are not as pro-Western as the Kurds. And I point out also that Israel itself supports an independent Kurdish nation. And I think Israel needs a friend in that region that is not necessarily the United States. And I think the Kurds would be perfect for that.
Yeah, it's interesting in that Israel would be in favor. I don't know that to be true. I'm just taking your word for it. That Israel would be in favor of giving the Kurds their own independent state, but yet not in favor of giving the Palestinians their own independent state.
I'm not in favor of giving the Palestinians their own independent state for cultural reasons. Palestinians are not pro-Western. They don't share our values. But the Kurds are very different. And you can see how the Kurds treat their women in a way that is much better than what most Muslims
I understand that, but you're only in favor of giving independent states to pro-American countries?
Not. I'm in favor of independent states for people who share Western values. And I think the Kurds, among all the Muslims, are the most culturally Western. And
what do you mean by Western values? What do you mean by that?
Well, like for example, the women don't have to wear. I think they call it hijabs.
Yeah.
They are described. I've read these articles describing how the women and the people live in Iraq, in the northern part, and they seem very similar.
Well, why not just make Iran and just give it to the Kurds? Have them run Iran.
No, because the people who are not Kurdish, they have a right to their own self-expression of how they should be governed. Right. And I think I spoke to you about this before.
Well, I mean, my only point in this is that's nation building, and that's going to take boots on the ground, and that's going to take years. And it didn't work out so well in Iraq. So why do you think it would work out so well in Iran?
I'm not suggesting the United States do nation building for the Kurds. It's the Kurds who will build a nation. They just need the territory. They want the land, and we should support that.
Well, okay, supporting it, but what does that mean? Does that mean give them military support, give them financial support, give them boots on the ground, give them tanks, give them Tomahawk cruise missiles? They're going to have to fight for this land, and they're going to need some support. What do you mean by that?
It means that if they want to buy weapons from us, we sell it to them. The Kurds don't necessarily want us to fight for their independent nation. They're willing to fight for it. They just want us to agree to that because right now we don't agree to that. And I think that's unfair to them because they paid in blood for helping us in fighting ISIS. So
no,
again,
I don't disagree that the Kurds have been very friendly to Americans, and we have throughout the last 20, 30 years have not done right by them and abandoned them in all certain ways and everything else. That I agree with. I mean, that's not in a dispute. But how we get to an independent Kurdish state, I think, is a somewhat difficult road, if you will. I'll give you the last word, Alex. Go ahead.
We have the military power to carve out a piece of Iran, but the Kurds will do the defense of that land. They're willing to do the fight. They don't want us to do that, and that's okay with me. So the Kurds really do want an independent nation, and they can succeed. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Alex, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it. Let's go to the text line is alive and well tonight, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. I like this one from Delaware. Can a trans woman get an Uber woman driver? So earlier tonight, I was telling the story about Uber announced today that they now are allowing women to request women drivers when you order an Uber, okay? And apparently Lyft has had this for years, so Uber's late to the game on this, but just this past weekend they announced that if you're a female and you want to, if you want to have a female driver, you can request one. Because I personally, I've had a number of women say to me that they will not get into an Uber because they don't want to get into a strange car with a strange man in a strange town or a strange neighborhood because they just don't want to put themselves in that position. Something I never thought about as a man, right? Not worried about my safety, but women, right? They have different safety issues, and so I thought that was fascinating. Anyway, I've also heard women say that they feel more comfortable in a driverless robotaxi than they do with an Uber driver. Again, something I'd never even thought of. But now, because Uber is allowing women to ask for women drivers, can a trans woman get Uber a woman driver or vice versa? If you're a trans woman, right? Now, a trans woman, it's confusing. If you're a man who dresses like a woman, that's one issue. But if you're a man who transitioned to a woman and you've gotten the surgeries and everything else, you live like a woman. I know this is somewhat controversial, But if you live like a woman and you have surgery to become a woman, by all definition, you are a woman, are you not? And so you could request another woman. It's the transvestite. It's the man who dresses up as a woman. Can they request a woman? And or if that would be a transvesting driver, right? If you're a driver and you dress up as a woman but have male parts, could you then be deemed a woman driver? This could open up a can of worms for Uber, one in which they never even really thought about when you think of it. From the 314 in Missouri, the Badlands look like science fiction right off the highway. It was awesome. Tim in North Carolina on the time change. When asked an old Indian what he thought about time change, he said only the government would think you could cut 1/3 of the top of a blanket, sew it on the bottom of the blanket, and think you would make it longer. It is pretty funny how people say you get more daylight. You don't get any more daylight. It's just shifted daylight. It's the same amount of daylight. Great park in the Badlands. Been there a few times feeding the donkeys and watching the buffalo. That's from Minneapolis. Here's one. What I understand, there are about 38 or so exiled Iranians that are holding meetings in London to shape a new government in Iran. How that works out is a mystery. How that works out is a true mystery. How we get from there to here. Now, look, here's my prediction, and I made this prediction the other day. What is today? Today's the 10th, right? Is today the 10th? Yeah, today's March 10th. My prediction is that March 20th, 10 days from today, between now and then, President Trump will declare victory and stop bombing. He will declare victory. It's solved. He has solved whatever problem he deems was the problem, right? If it's regime change, it's good enough. If he had to degrade the military, good enough. If he had to do away with the nuclear weapons, good enough. If he wanted to make the world safe from Iran, good enough. He has done it all. And so now he can stop bombing, declare victory, and move on. I don't see him going much more than 10 days. The gas is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. They're already starting to sort of hedge their bets on this gas prices and stuff. He's already starting to hedge that the war is almost over, even though it could go on for a lot longer. There's not much more return you get on bombing it more. And the rift between Israel and America, where Israel's going after their oil infrastructure versus the United States saying, hey, keep that oil infrastructure intact because they have to rebuild their economy, and that doesn't help the next regime if we've destroyed their way of life. That doesn't do anybody any good going forward. So my guess is he's got at maximum 10 more days. Now, I have no inside information. I could be totally wrong. I could be talking totally out of my ears. But if it goes past March 20th, what's he doing? What's the goal? What does he want to accomplish? So that's my 2 cents. Ron in Mitchell, South Dakota. Ron, welcome to America at Night.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
I'm in Mitchell, South Dakota.
Yes.
We listen to KORN radio here. Mitchell, home of the world's only corn palace.
Aha. I've heard about that place.
Well, it's an attraction that has murals and designs on the exterior made from the corn that's grown, several varieties of colored corn. So every year they change the mural, the theme, and people come by to see it. But I am an old rock collector.
Okay.
I have camped many a time in the Badlands. And I want to tell you that outside, you don't pick things up in a monument that's protected. But outside of the monument is the national grasslands. So it's a patchwork of private and public lands around the monument. And one of the most prized things out of those rock beds, and I'm talking about fields and fields of rock when you get out there, is a Fairburn agate.
Excuse me? A
Named
what?
after Fairburn agate.
Okay.
It's named after the little town of Fairburn. Like with most agates, it has a pattern of concentric lines around some crystal quartz center or something like that. The South Dakota School of Mines and Technology in Rapid City has a very beautiful geology collection. And when I grew up with rock books, they weren't color plated or color pictured. So I went to a lot of rock shows. I stood for hours in the School of Mines in Rapid City studying rocks so that when I got out in the field, I knew what to look for.
So let me ask you this question, Ron. When you're walking in the Badlands and you're mentioning rocks, how easy is it to find fossils?
Upon occasion, yeah. You want to go where, how shall I describe it? The White River runs through the southern boundaries between the reservation and the Badlands. You get south of the Badlands, you're then on two reservation boundaries, the Pine Ridge and Rosebud. And it is around the erosion. The ground out there is very different than eastern South Dakota. We still have black dirt over here to grow corn or soybeans. But out west, that stuff is gumbo. It's like, not like a clay, but of that kind of a quality of material. And some of the roads are trails. You don't want to get caught in the rain on some of these unimproved roads. Even with a four-wheel drive, you're going to have trouble getting in and out. You can find fossils out there.
All right, good. Hey, how far is Mitchell, South Dakota, from the Nebraska border?
About an hour to an hour and a half, depending upon which direction. We're right north. Yankton would be right across the river, and we're north and west a little bit of Yankton by some 80 miles.
All right, good to know. I'd love to make it up to Mitchell and check out the Corn Palace. Ron in Mitchell, South Dakota, thanks for checking in.
Well, you're bet. Thanks for the program. Appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the insight into Mitchell, South Dakota. America at Night, back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
I'll leave you with this. It was about a year ago that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stood in the Oval Office, if you remember, and President Trump chided him, saying, first of all, how dare you show up in the Oval Office with that outfit? But secondly, you don't have any cards to play. Remember that? When he said, look, you're negotiating to end the war with Russia, but you don't have any cards to play. Trump argued that Ukraine's independence on the U.S., and their weak position, they got to make a deal quickly. Remember that? Well, Ukraine has at least one card to play with these Iranian drones that are being used by Iran. They also sent a whole bunch to Russia, and Russia has used them at Ukraine over the last number of years. And Ukraine has become an expert at diffusing and blocking these drones. So now Ukraine has been asked by the United States to help out. Ukraine has sent interceptor drones and a team of drone experts to protect the U.S. military bases in Jordan. President Zelensky said in an interview with the New York Times that the United States has made the request to help on Thursday, and the Ukrainian team left the next day. Zelensky said, "We reacted immediately. Yes, of course, we will send our experts. We'll do everything we can to help." So America asking Ukraine to help block the Iranian drones that they're experiencing that Ukraine has had to deal with all these years because Iran is sending their drones to Russia to attack Ukraine. That's one card for you. We're done for the night. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. We'll do it again tomorrow night. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.